There's all kinds of makeups that we do as makeup artists, especially effects makeup artists like myself, and many times people think, you know, if you do an alien or a monster, that it's going to be really hard, and it is. But what is much harder are the human kind of makeups. A progressive age movie is very difficult to do because people recognize that more. You see old people every day. You know, you don't see monsters every day. Many times it's not just making an actor age the way they would age, but it's more make them age the way the character would age. So I mean, you really, you know, you have to take all that into consideration.
A woman is beautiful if she has 8 hours sleep and goes to the beauty parlor every day. And bone structure has a lot to do with it, too.
In Mr. Skeffington, there's quite an amazing transformation of her going from a young woman to an old, decrepit, and ill woman. And it's done without appliances, without rubber pieces. And frankly, I was quite impressed by the progression. For the old age and ill stuff, they did a process called the old age stipple. It's really an amazing technique, and we're going to demonstrate it. But it has to be on a person with the right kind of skin to begin with. I mean, I was so excited as a youngster when I found a formula to how to make latex stipple in this book. And so I mixed this stuff up, and I put it on my 15-year-old face, and it didn't do anything, you know. Now, you know, my 55-year-old face, it works great, you know. It's like the skin needs to be a little looser and stuff, but it's a really cool technique. I'm here with Kazu, and Kazu's putting old age stipple on me, and I think I got the name because of the technique that you apply it. You stipple it on with a sponge, like stipple, stipple, stipple. Basically, you stretch the actor's skin, stipple on with a sponge this latex material, dry it in a stretched position, and when you release the stretching, it forms these kind of natural wrinkles. It forces the skin to fold and wrinkle. It's basically a latex base that we add gelatin and some talc and some dye to. When you look in the mirror and you see yourself looking like this, I'm sure it helps actors a lot feel much, much older. I'm going to feel older as we go on. Let's keep going. It's kind of a strange feeling to have stipple on your skin. It's like, it almost feels like your skin is dead because you lose a little of the feeling of the touch of your hand on it. Okay, so now we're finished with the stipple part. And now Kazu's going to start the painting process. Kazu here is the greatest makeup artist around. He, besides being an amazing artist, just has a real love for the craft, and he's the future of makeup. Okay, so right now Kazu is kind of shading under my cheekbones and my nasolabial folds to kind of bring out the forms a little bit. This is kind of like a highlight and shadow makeup, at this point just the shadow, but it's accentuating the forms. When you're the makeup artist and you're doing a makeup and you have 3 hours, you can't believe how quick that time is disappearing. When you're the actor in the chair, it's a whole different experience. You know, the second hand hardly moves, and you're going, what is he doing? Why is it taking so long? You know? So I think every makeup artist should have that experience of being in the chair. Are we done? See, I'm trying to be like a real actor. Is it done? This looks good enough to me. Don't you think this looks good enough?
No.
So right now, Kazu's preparing to paint some little teeny veins on my face. What are we using, Kazu?
Acrylic color.
Yes, that's what I thought, a little acrylic color to add little age spots and red areas and all sorts of fun little things that happen to old people's faces. So I just stuck in some crazy teeth here. Grab me that big mustache, let's look at it. Okay. You got any spare change, Kazu? Oh, I'm more Wild West now. Yeah. Well, you see a couple hours of makeup and a nice-looking 55-year-old man turns into this. I didn't know we were going this direction, Kazu, did you? It was like the teeth changed the whole thing in a stupid mustache.
Watch our salute to the art of aging tonight beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern, part of our TCM Spotlight, Making Faces Makeup in the Movies on Turner Classic Movies.
Transformations in films is something that always fascinated me, and you know, the Jekyll and Hyde movies, and I always liked seeing that transformation from man to animal, you know. And Frederick March, Jekyll and Hyde did some really clever things, a lot of clever things. One of them, and something you could only do in black and white, is this red-green thing where they would do a makeup in red, paint the shadows in red, and light it with a red light, and in black and white, the red disappeared. And then they would fade out the red light and fade up a green light, which made the red turn black. So you would actually see, you know, him look normal, and all of a sudden these shadows and these things would appear. But they also did some really clever things just with camera moves, where the camera would do this quick pan down to his hand, and during that pan they would do a cut, and then it was like a different makeup. There's an extreme difference between the Frederick March Jekyll and Hyde and the Spencer Tracy Jekyll and Hyde, but I actually quite like the Spencer Tracy Jekyll and Hyde as well. I mean, if I had to choose, you know, because I'm a monster movie fan, the Frederick March one is much cooler as far as monsters go. The Spencer Tracy one, though, is a very cool makeup. I mean, there's definitely a difference there, and it's a more believable Hyde. I mean, if you saw Frederick March in the pub or wherever he is, you know, the people would like look at him and what's this like caveman guy doing here, you know? The Spencer Tracy one you would accept as a human, you know, and it's probably a tougher makeup because it was more on the human side, you know, and it's really kind of hard to figure out what they did. You know, when you look at it, you see Spencer Tracy, but you see him different.
Did you think that Dr. Jekyll was falling in love with you? You with your cheap little dreams? Or did you think, perhaps, that in him you saw a bit of me, Hyde?
In most Jekyll and Hyde movies, there is a progressive deterioration kind of, I mean, it gets worse as every time he changes, more so in the March version, but in Spencer Tracy as well. He gets progressively more and more haggard, and they did a thing where they, you know, glued his eyelids down, probably silk organza glued to his eye and glued down here, pulling him down, and they're really pulled down at the end. Boy, it's like it must have really hurt, you know. It looks cool, you know, but he's definitely a lot worse off at the end of that movie than he is in the beginning, you know. Same with Tracy, though.
I'm Dr. Jekyll. I'm Dr. Henry Jekyll, I tell you. I've done nothing. You're looking for a man named Hyde.
Obviously, there's a wig, and there's some clever things with the teeth, and you kind of think jutted out his jaw more, too. I mean, they gave him bigger eye bags and bigger stuff like that.
I'm Dr. Jekyll. I tell you, I'm Dr. Jekyll.
The Frederick March makeup, if that was put on Spencer Tracy in that film, it wouldn't have worked as well, you know, and vice versa, you know. So it's, you know, it's just, again, artistic decisions, and I think the right ones for the movies.
See how movie makeup can transform an ordinary man into a monster in Frederick March's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, part of our TCM Spotlight on Horror Makeup, tonight at 11:15 p.m. Eastern on Turner Classic Movies.
The thing that I find the most fulfilling about my job is that I like the fact that you start with something that's just an idea in your head. You know, you read the script, and right away I'll visualize something, and you see that thing that at one point was just an idea in your head looking real and alive. You know, it's really exciting. It is very much like being Dr. Frankenstein. You know, I want to scream, it's alive.
Alive!
I was always just fascinated with monsters in movies, and when I realized that someone actually did that and you could do it as a job, I just became obsessed with it.
I give you the monster.
I think the first makeup artist that I was ever really aware of and became a fan of was Jack Pierce. Jack created all the great Universal classic monsters, especially Frankenstein's monster, which, again, that makeup hasn't been outdone. It's become this iconic image. Everybody, when they think of Frankenstein's monsters, thinks of Jack Pierce's brilliant makeup on Boris Karloff. I read stuff about how he came up with the flat head, for example, and it really makes no sense what he says, but he said he studied, burial techniques and surgical techniques and all these different things to come up with the concept, and his feeling was that Frankenstein, not really being a trained surgeon, would take the simplest route to take the brain out of a head and put it back in, which is just cut the top of the head off like a box lid and then put a brain in and close it back up. That's why he made it flat, like a box. But if you cut the top of someone's head off, it's maybe missing 1/8 of an inch from the saw cut, but it's still the same shape, Makes no sense, but it works, It's such a great makeup. The heavy eyelids, where he put mortician's wax on Boris's eyelids to keep them half closed, which again is one of the things that makes that makeup work so well, was Boris's idea. He in the first makeup test, he just thought his eyes looked too alive and suggested that. Karloff gives such an amazing performance. It's one of the all-time classic makeups and movies.
You make man like me? No. Woman. Friend for you. Woman. Friend. Yes. I want friend like me.
There's this other iconic image in there, and that's the bride, and it's such a totally different makeup than the Frankenstein's monster. And she's kind of pretty in a way, it's basically a beauty makeup on Elsa Lanchester with a bit of a scar in kind of a very unobvious place. And that wacky hairstyle is kind of what makes it, everybody knows that when they think of the Bride of Frankenstein, they think of that, kind of Nefertiti kind of head shape, with this almost lightning bolt, white streaks. And I don't know what the thinking was behind all that. It works, and again, they created this other iconic image of the bride. It's not, I don't think, what people would expect going in to see a movie called The Bride of Frankenstein, but clever decisions.
Makeup plays the starring role in bringing a monster to life in The Bride of Frankenstein, part of our TCM Spotlight on horror makeup, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on Turner Classic Movies.